This is the Realty Classroom Podcast, episode number 90, Why Agents Are Too Technical and How It's Hurting Them. Are you a real estate agent with an entrepreneurial spirit who wants to turn your job into a business, but you don't really want to sacrifice that lifestyle that you have, and you can't seem to find the right plan to help you get there? Well, then, hey, you are definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Realty Classroom and the host of this podcast. Now, to help you take immediate action if you want to get started in the right direction if you're new, or build a better real estate agent business if you're a veteran agent like me, I've created a free jumpstart course for you. It's sitting over there. It's digital, easy access, free. Agentgift.com, freeagentgift.com. It'll give you a nice outline. I use it every day in my own business. I use it as the foundational piece for teaching people, new veterans, etc. Go get your copy of it. It's free, okay? All right, let's get started. In this episode, I'm passionate about this subject because it is very foundational to the work that I have used to improve my business. And as we sit here at this recording together and you listen to me talk about this, I am super enthused about what's happening in my own business. If this is the first time you're listening or you happen to catch me for the first time, I own a brokerage called Griffin Realty Group and the Realty Classroom, which is the coaching arm, the sister company. So everything that I talk about here, I'm actually doing in my own business. Now, it's taken me a long time, and knowing all the thousands of tipping points that I've been through and the distinctions I've made, it's still difficult to simplify things and make them make sense. But there is a methodology that I use that I'm imploring you, please copy what I do, because I've learned from some really smart people, both inside and outside of real estate, and it works. And that is this battle between the difference between a tactical approach and a strategic approach. So let's answer that question first. What are you talking about? Well, I've always had this vision as a small business person when I finally understood that you need different perspectives. So imagine that it's just you in the wilderness of small business. By the way, I think this is why a lot of them fail. It's not because they weren't enthusiastic, those entrepreneurial starters, right? But oftentimes, if there's no money behind it, and there's no real advice out there behind it, it's just this passion. It's a passion business. You see a lot of that in the online space right now. It's a passion. You start with a blog or a podcast, and off you go. Well, that's a tactic. Think about that. Right? Tactically, to get my message to you today, I'm using the medium of voice and video. That's all tactical. But what's the point? Why am I sitting here recording this? That's where strategy comes in. Why did I do it in the first place? Now, in the context of a small business, this is where you sit still and you have some sort of planning. I know. I get what happens because it happened to most small business people that I know. It happened to me. Somebody sits down and says, what's your plan? The guys at Realty Executives said that to me way back in the 90s when I first started. And they said, what's your plan? And I gave them a tactical answer when I think back. This is the first time I've made that distinction in the podcast. I said, you give me 2,000 business cards, a desk, a lamp, and I'll bring the Army helmet and the work ethic, right? I was ready to go into the trenches and work hard. And that's exactly what I said to them. We all had a good laugh. But I wish somebody could have thrown some cold water on me right there. Wake up, dude. Don't talk like that. That's a tactic. Sure, you can go out there and probably do fine. And I did, because I was a hustler. You know, you hear that all over the internet these days. Hustle, 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 hustle. And it's true. If you're doing something tactically, you should hustle, but you shouldn't rush to start there. It's a mistake. You need to be strategic. I mean, I don't know whatever example you want to look for, but I think to fighting. Right? If somebody gets into, for example, these days, MMA is the rage, and people are locked into a cage, and you see the people that are tactical, they just come out flailing and swinging, and they've been lifting weights and running and, practicing jujitsu and falls and all this, and bang, they get knocked out cold by somebody who was more strategic. Somebody who came in a little bit calmer and said, all right, let them go off for a few minutes and let's see what happens. And bang, they get knocked out. Well, I'll make a case. Most small business people, especially real estate agents, are knocking themselves out, right? So that's the difference. I'll slow this down. A strategy is a different sort of lens through which we look at the business. And again, in that model, I give away at freeagentgift.com. I give you an infographic that you can look at, and you can see where strategy really comes in. It's below vision. And it's above tactic or technician. That's what it is. It's that sandwiched piece right in the middle that most of us just ignore because it comes dressed as management. Nobody loves to manage anything. They just want to do something. You get all excited about this vision for a business that serves you and freedom. You don't have to answer to anybody else per se, and you run right down and you go out and do an open house. That's a tactic. You go right out and you make some cold calls. That's a tactic. You go out and you post on social media. That's a tactic. Why? Why did you choose those things at all? Why did you choose those things in order? See what I'm saying? It becomes fairly easy to see the difference between the two. So let's, in the next point here, let's really give that some nomenclature and let's chunk it back up again. In the model that I put together that I learned from others like Gerber's book, etc., many other people too, but there's perspectives that you have to have. So for small business, which this is what we're talking about here, real estate agents or small business people, they have a vision for a business that works and it's exciting. So that's the visionary. That's the top. That's where we get way up that when you hear, all these colloquialisms and these, quips, the 3,000-foot view. Okay, I like that though, because it gives us a vision to get way up above something. Now, as visionaries together, we get way up above it and we ask a simple question looking down upon the business. How does the general business work? And there's plenty of episodes where I talk about that, but it's really predicated around listings in the MLS. And next, how do you become one of those folks that then goes down into that business and runs your own listings business, for example? How do you get listings? That's going to be this vision. And so that's where somebody says to you, well, you come over here and you go to your sphere of influence, or you come over here and you go cold call. And see what I'm saying? Immediately, the advice world is giving tactical advice. And they're all good pieces of advice, I think. I think there's too many people that think they want to coach people, and pretty scary that they make it up as they go along. But there are some pretty sharp people out there that are very good tactical coaches about specific pieces. But the problem is, if the agent believes that tactic in and of itself is a strategy, and I don't know that they do think that way, but they accept it that way passively, and off they go, and then they're wondering, what's wrong? How come I did this thing from this person, and this person made me this promise? The problem is you thought that was going to be a whole business strategy. You had a vision to go down into real estate, to make your way in the world in real estate, and you went right to somebody's one tactical teaching, and then you wonder why that's not working, quote unquote. It didn't work for me. You hear that crap all the time, right? It's just a cop-out. And really what it is, it's not the coach's fault, it's not the agent's fault, it's just the perspective's fault. You didn't think about all three of these perspectives when you went at it. It's not rocket science, like it was third grade level. Visionary, right? Strategist, tactical technician, I guess is the best way to put it. That's it. Three perspectives. So today is to highlight, you have to make room for strategy and strategic perspective. Just look at it through that lens. Why am I about to spend money, time, energy, and effort on this tactic? So for example, why am I going to spend the time doing a podcast, doing a video? Then why am I going to choose one media versus the next? Why would I choose YouTube versus Facebook versus Instagram versus LinkedIn, and on and on and on? That story goes, right? And the irony is we get so caught up in what we think is a sexy tactic, right? Ever heard that term, the shiny object syndrome? Well, that's why it happens. Because we're tactic shopping. That's what we're doing. We're looking for these tactical things, and they sound really exciting and sexy, and they're on the bleeding edge. Social media, all these things are exciting, and my friends are there, and people are there. Well, maybe not. Maybe not, meaning maybe the ideal client that you're after is not necessarily on Facebook or YouTube first, thinking about selling, for example. Maybe not. And I'm not saying they are or they are not. I'm not giving you my opinion here. I have one, but I have one because it's strategic. And it's come after time and time of adjusting my strategies and trying different tactics. And I'll get into another point. I almost said it ahead of time, but I want to keep this in order. I start to look at everything strategically. In fact, the majority of my week now is spent asking myself why I'm doing any of these things and are they working to achieve the vision that I have for my companies. Period. And I'm telling you, everything's become easier. And hello now, top producers, less, that's not even a word, less costly, right? I was already excited combining them. Lessly, right? That's what they are, less costly. That's the point here. Is that as you begin to spend, and all you folks that are newer, my gosh, please listen to me. Don't listen to somebody who says they have this one thing that all of a sudden is going to make a whole business for you. That's absurd. It's ridiculous. It's a sucker's bet. Don't be so persuadable. Don't be such a sucker to believe that one tactic in a box is a business plan. It's not. Now, the good news is there are a tremendous amount of low-tech, low-cost tactics that you can use if you'll think strategically first. I will prove that to you right here. When it comes to listings, one of the things that I didn't like, quote unquote, in my brain along the way in development was going after tactically an expired listing. And it was because I didn't like the tactical approach that I saw in the industry being taught. I didn't vibe with it. A lot of the people I coached didn't vibe with it. It felt barbaric to us. But we never said strategically, what if we could look at helping those people differently? Is there a strategy that we could come at those people, for example, with the law of reciprocity? Could we give away our best stuff for free, said the internet, right? Not that the internet really is the founder of giving away the free report or the free ideas or the free content, but it really accelerated it. So I took that to heart as a strategy. And I said, what if I did give away my best stuff for free, not worrying about the outcome? Oh, but if I give it to them, they'll give it to my competitor or they'll do it themselves. You're talking about giving away strategically information that's helpful to somebody, which triggers something we all want. We want a gift, and then it triggers the law of reciprocity. I want to give you something back, even if it's a few minutes of my time on the phone, even if it's 45 minutes in my house. I want to give it back to you because you gave to me. That's a strategic approach. Now, tactically, what changes? Well, telemarketing, for example, is a tactic. Scripting is a tactic. So you say, well, we have this new strategic idea. By the way, it's not even proven yet. So what do we do? What's our best stuff look like? Well, why don't we productize it tactically? Why don't we turn it into a magazine, a cover letter, and some printouts from the MLS? Why don't we put it in an envelope? Why don't we make it look a certain way? Now all this strategic approach, how are we going to deliver this free information, becomes tactical. You tell the telemarketer, or you telemarket yourself, and you pick up the phone and you say something completely different now because your verbiage is just explaining your strategy. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Consumer, I have this stuff for you. Would it be okay if I sent it to you? Permission marketing. You hear that all the time. I think I have to give credit to Seth Godin. I think that was the first time that I heard that terminology from him, but it took me a while strategically to wrap my head around it and have the perspective that he had. I had to gain that by listening. Oh, I get what he means by permission. You actually do ask, may I market to you? Because what I'm marketing to you is helpful, and here's why. Get a yes or a no. Boom, off to the next. Versus this tactical, muscular approach to, at the end of every month, attacking these people and saying, hey, when are you going to hire the right person? And all this crazy stuff that just I didn't vibe with as a strategy. I'm not saying that doesn't work. I'm not saying that people shouldn't employ it. I'm just saying, simply put, for me, I needed a different strategic perspective that I vibed with, that I felt that my business needed to be based off of, right? So now let's go back to that for a second. As a whole process, no matter what you're looking at in your business. And in fact, I would say it's a process for taking an inventory. When somebody comes back on, I have a client that came back to me recently, and we're looking at his marketing as a strategy. It's the first thing we do. I don't sit here and start talking about tactics. I say, okay, what are you doing that's working? And he had, learning from me years ago, he had a nice income statement for me for this past year. He had everything weighted, what he had spent on. So it was very easy to see strategically what he was doing because it was all measured. right there in front of me. So I said to him, after listening to him, okay, well, let's look at your strategic marketing plan. From what are you doing tactically, and why is that your right strategy? I mean, are the tactics in line with the strategy? We just kind of did this vertical look at it, right? And to a certain extent they were, but to another extent they weren't. Because you could go down to the tactic, the postcard, you could look at the message, and you could see the message wasn't really completely in line with what his overall listing strategy was, even though it was working. So it wasn't like we were going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, as the saying goes. We're just kind of looking at it and saying, can we refine this? Because he did have a strategic background with me and others. And he had been imploring it. He had been using it tactically. So his strategy was send these postcards out, get these listers to respond. But there was a whole bunch of things strategically we could do. Okay, what's the process then? What the heck are you talking about? Well, the process is, are you getting the result you want? Well, yes, kind of. And could you get it better? Great. So let's just go back up to the strategy and challenge it. Okay, are these people coming to you the way that you had hoped they would? And by the way, globally, why did you choose to get listings through direct mail as your primary choice? So we just went back and thought about it like that. That's how you go through this strategic decision-making process. Hey, even though it's working, I'm not going to defend it without questioning it again and again and again. That's just good business. And that allowed he and I in the same conversation to open up a second lane about other ways to find people who might want to sell in these geographies for less money and very specific targeted ways. We weren't going to stop this because it's working. Because we could see the math that told us it's working. He monetizes this. It works. There's no reason to back down. But the strategy was, well, do I take this and go to the contiguous area because I'm only getting X percent? No, we make it better in that area and we open up other strategies and employ other tactics to get more in the same area, because it wasn't like he was dominating this area. So see, strategic thinking, that process allowed us to stop spreading too thinly into these other geographies where he wasn't quite ready, and more so stay focused on how do we double down on our strengths right now and clean them up. That's a strategic decision-making process. So just to finish that part of the anecdote, tactically, I made some suggestions on what I thought the postcard could do better. I made some suggestions on thinking about tracking the URL. How many people got that, opened it, how we can track URLs, went to the landing page. Can you build a landing page that now speaks to them? Can you put a picture of the video on the postcard that kind of leads them there? Okay, now we're into these fun tactics because we know strategically it works, but we're fixing the tactics to make the overall strategy more effective. That's it. And you can do that with anything. I'll give you an example. I'll go outside that for a second. What if I get somebody that I'm coaching that's a top producer for the first time, and I ask them, what do you think your biggest challenge is? Would it be in marketing to get people that you don't know? Would it be in converting those people because you're not really following up past trying to skim the cream off the top? Is your closing coordination set up so that they feel cared for in the most highlighted moment? Do you have any kind of closing coordination? Anybody helping you with that? Or what about your past client community? Are you treating them like family once you birth them in there? Well, I'll tell you, I get a lot of transactional agents that come to me that have on a scale of 0 to 10, they give themselves a 0 on being intentional, which means strategically intentional, about taking care of and communicating with their past client module. Okay? I slowed that down because a whole module sits there. They look up strategically and they say, am I really even managing this? Because strategies are usually the manager's job. Am I really even managing this? Am I coming up with strategy? And the answer is 0. So why are we running down to talk about the latest website on the internet that gets internet leads, which some of the furthest away from being converted, and we don't even have a conversion system that can handle all these leads, blah, 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 and on it goes, and I get a 0 down here, and these people have been in the business 5, 10 years, and they're doing nothing intentionally, and they've got hundreds of names of people that already know, like, and trust them, and they're doing nothing. Whew. I was one of them. How about that? Right? They just kept coming to me, these past clients, nothing intentional, nothing to set them up the minute we closed to care for them, to make them part of that family type of feeling. Nothing. It's just crazy how quickly you can change this. Now, remember, the modules I'm referring to, I'm giving everybody who listens here, freeagentgift.com, the infographic from the Realty Classroom is there. You can see this, and you can at least begin to understand that every decision you make, you have to make it through these perspectives. Does this help me fulfill the vision? And that's the last point here. Once we make these tactical choices, I'm going to double down on what I mentioned already. You have to measure them, okay? Am I getting a tactical result? I send the postcard, I get so many leads, and those leads go into my conversion process. I follow up thoroughly, and they either convert to a client or they do not. So now I can look back at the whole strategy. I followed every little tactic that I was supposed to, but I can look back at the whole strategy and say, did it monetize? And if not, I need to rethink the entirety of the strategy. Is it something broken tactically in the strategy, or is the whole strategic approach to begin with flawed? So if I simply measure it in the simplest way, not some fancy measurement, send a card. Anybody call? No. Okay, not so good. Check the message. Is it really what I want to say? Did I think strategically that would get people to call? Did I give them the right number? Did I give them a URL where I further explain it? These are all really, really important things to ride along the tactics of the strategy. Big strategy, give away my best stuff for free. To whom? To sellers. Boom, 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 boom. Did it happen? Measured. Simple. And if it didn't, go back and start to make your refinements. All right. So let me reiterate these points, because I know it's not easy, but I want you to walk away with just, hey, have a strategic perspective for change. Will you? Stop going straight to the tactics. That's the key point here. But here are the bullet points. Agents, especially top producers, have become very tactical, and it's really hurting them, because they're off in the poppy fields with Dorothy on one thing, an eggs all in one basket approach. And that's why they just can't seem to get out of that selling on muscle addiction, right? Never really becomes a business. So you have to ask yourself, what's the difference between tactical and strategic? Strategic is the work of the manager who dictates the tactics of the technician. The next point is, what is a strategic perspective? It's to start that way. To say, are these tactics fulfilling the strategy in these modules? Marketing, conversion, closing, past client, right? Am I really getting a strategic perspective first, or am I just making these band-aided tactical decisions and taping them together? So that's that process. The third point, get up above every major decision you're about to make. Spend time thinking every single day, every single week about how you make these decisions and whether or not they are strategic to tactical. And then checking them in the last point to be measured and refined. Is this getting me to the vision for the business that works? All right. So to chunk up that key point in one line, real estate agents, especially top producers, are running their businesses based off of tactical decisions first and are missing the higher perspective of a strategic first approach, which would move them more swiftly to their goals, just like it's doing for me these days. All right. Now, remember, I'm going to say this again. You can take immediate action. That means right now to get started in the right direction or a better direction with our free, simple business plan that gives you these three perspectives. It's over at freeagentgift.com. Now, please don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so that you don't miss out on any of these insights each time we upload an episode. This is coming from real people doing this real job and running this real business every week, okay? We also broadcast our live sales training calls. You want to get tactical with me? Watch. A live sales training call is all about tactics. I give it away, Facebook, YouTube, every Friday, 1 EDT. So remember, go over there, turn on those little bells and channel notifications for the Realty Classroom, and you won't miss any of the reminders, and you can join us. We'd also appreciate it if you would share our content. Please, thank you, with other entrepreneurially spirited agents, people trying to learn this business just like you so that they can get some help. That's what the internet and giving stuff away for free is all about. Share it, please, with some of you care about. Hey, remember, thanks for listening. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time that you take to be here with me, but put this stuff in action. And remember, nobody's coming for you. So go sit somewhere quietly and get to work on your own business. See you in the next episode.